Hello, fabulous fourth graders of St. Lucie Public Schools. I am Miss Owens, the math coach at Longwood Elementary. And as you guys know, it's always a pleasure to be able to work with you guys from home. So thank you for tuning in with me. In today's lesson, we are going to learn about perimeter. But before we begin, we're going to review our answers from last time. So we were working on a problem about a family. Mrs. Jackson, her family eats about 1 kilogram of cereal each week. The boxes of cereal come in a mass of 234 grams. So we were trying to figure out how many boxes of cereal does Miss Jackson need to purchase in order for her family to get to eat their 1 kilogram. So I used a strategy called guess and check. I estimated that 234 is roughly around 200 using front end rounding, and 234 times 4 is 936. Now again, that's not going to be enough because 1 kilogram in grams is 1,000 grams. 936 grams is not quite 1,000. So then I did 234 multiplied by 5 and I got 1,170. Bingo! That she needs to purchase 5 boxes of cereal in order for her family to consume their 1 kilogram, which is also equivalent to 1,000 grams. Okay, enough about last time. Let's move into today's lesson. Again, we are going to learn about perimeter. And just to give you guys some background information on perimeter, perimeter refers to the outside distance around a rectangle. If you look at the word perimeter, you will see the word rim tucked inside of it. So when you think about the rim of a basketball goal, I want you to think about the distance around a rectangle. Let's look at the standard. The standard for this lesson is MD13, and it reads, the student will be able to apply the area and perimeter formula for rectangles in real world and mathematical problems. So there is a formula that you need to use when you're trying to find the perimeter of a rectangle. The key idea in today's lesson says perimeter is the distance around. And notice I'm not going in a circle because we are working with rectangles. Perimeter is the distance around the outside rim or edge of any polygon. So let's go ahead and jump into our lesson. Another important thing that you need to know when you are working with rectangles is you need to know the mathematical terms of length and width. So when looking at a rectangle, we know that rectangles have 4 sides. It's a quadrilateral, and the opposite sides are congruent, which means they have equal measurement. So the shorter sides, or the sides on the right and the left, are considered the width, and then the longer sides, the top and the bottom, are considered the length. So when we're talking about width and length, this is what I am referring to. So go ahead and I'll give you guys 5 seconds to get something to write with and something to write on. If you want to go ahead and draw a rectangle and label it, that is perfectly fine. Your 5 seconds begin now. You're going to get your materials to write on and write with. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, let's get this show on the road. Again, here is your example of a rectangle. You have your width and your width, same measurement. Those measurements are congruent, and then you have your 2 lengths, and those measurements are congruent as well. All right, so let's go ahead and solve our first problem. It says find the perimeter of the following. So we have our width as 10 1/3 yards, and we have our length as 6 1/3 yards. So we're actually dealing with mixed numbers. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the formula. So in order to find the perimeter, I need to get the total, or the sum of the distance around this entire rectangle. So I will take perimeter. To find the perimeter, I'll have to take the the length and add it to the width and add that to the other length and add that to the other width. So now I'm going to abbreviate that formula just to make it a little bit shorter. So the perimeter will be equal to the length plus the width plus the other length plus the other width. And now we're going to label this one as the width and this one as the length. And we're kind of missing some measurements here. So let's review what we know about rectangles. We know that the opposite sides on a rectangle are congruent. That means that the opposite sides have the same measurement. So if the right side of my rectangle has a measurement of 10 1/3 yards, then what is the measurement of the left side of this rectangle? Exactly, 10 1/3 yards. And if my length at the top has a measurement of 6 1/3 yards, what is the measurement of the opposite side? Exactly, 6 1/3 yards. Thank you. So whenever you're trying to find the perimeter of a rectangle and all of the sides are not listed, think about what you know about the properties of a rectangle. Now we're going to substitute the lengths and the widths from the rectangle. We're going to substitute the actual measurements. So the perimeter will be equivalent to the length, 6 1/3, plus the width, 10 1/3, plus the other length, 6 1/3, plus the other width, 10 1/3. Now, when I look at problems and they're written out horizontally, I like to rewrite them vertically so that I can properly add. In this case, I will add the whole numbers to whole numbers, and then I will add the fractional pieces to the other fractions. So I have 10 and 10, I know that 10 plus 10 equals 20, and I have 6 and 6, and I know that 6 plus 6 equals 12. 12 plus 20 equals 32. I write my 2's differently. Okay, so now in adding the fractional pieces, I have 1/3 here and another 1/3 and another 1/3. Well, I know that 3/3 is equivalent to 1 whole. So I'll just take these 3/3 and add that 1 whole to my 32. And then I'll take that last third and bring it in as a mixed number. So the perimeter is equivalent to 33 1/3 yards. Pretty simple. So remember, when you are working to find the perimeter of a rectangle, you must apply the formula. Say it with me. The formula for perimeter is length plus width plus length plus width. Sometimes people like to just sum it up as saying perimeter equals the sum of all the sides. But when you're looking at your reference sheet for the FSA, you might see P equals L plus W plus L plus W. So we're out of time, but I want you to work on this problem, and it's going to be oh so ever tricky, but I know that you can draw it out and figure it out. I'll get you started. It says the perimeter of a rectangular schoolyard is 142 feet. Will you look at that? They give you the perimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out using P for perimeter. P equals 142 feet. We have the total distance around the rectangle. If the length of the schoolyard is 50 feet, what is the width? So let's go ahead and draw this out. So here's our rectangle, and it says if the length of the schoolyard is 50 feet, so if this length is 50 feet, then what's the measurement of the opposite side? 50 feet as well. So what we're missing is the width. And we know that the width has to be the same. And when we add up the sum of all the sides, or the length plus the length plus the width, we should get 142. So I'll set that up for you. We know that perimeter is equal to, well, we actually have the perimeter. So we'll write it as 142 feet is equivalent to 50 plus an unknown number plus 50, let me get rid of that, plus an unknown number. Do you know what those unknown numbers are? Well, I'll see you next time and we will review those answers. Thank you guys for tuning in with me and stay fabulous.